Welcome to 5 ways to be a hero for your users with the Simple Object Designer. Hey, I'm Eric, and in this video I'm going to show 5 examples of things that you can do with the Simple Object Designer. 5 things that you can do to customize your Business Center without the need for consultants or developers or without writing a single line of code. But the result is just as good as if you ask a seasoned developer like me to write the same thing, because the Simple Object Designer is reality writing code just like I would write it, but it just does it behind the scene. So let's get right into the first thing I want to show you that the Simple Object Designer can do is the classic thing. You can create a new field anywhere in the system. And in this case, I have already created some not very inventive names of the fields. We can see that the first one is a field on the customer table. And I have also said that that field should exist on 2 pages. So I can go in and look and see this is added to the customer card and the customer list. On the customer card, it's added as the last field in the general section. On the customer list, it's added as a field right after location code. We can also see that I have added the field to the customer top 10 report. So you can go in and create a custom report layout, and then this field will be available for you to place on the paper. So this placed on reports translate into put into the data set of a report, which is important. If you use the new Excel layout features, the field will be available in Excel. I have also created a field on the sales header, so like sales order, sales invoice, sales quote, but this field I have specified that there are field transfers, and the 2 field transfers that are activated is to sales invoice header and sales credit memo header, meaning that when you post something that from a sales document that creates a post to sales invoice, the field will transfer. So the field is actually added to both places and will transfer automatically. The Simple Object Designer knows connection and knows behind the scene how to write the right code for the field value to transfer. The only thing you have to do is say, hey, Eric, I want this to go to the sales shipment header. Say activate. It tells you, oh, but Eric, there is no field called test 2 in the sales shipment header. Should we create one? Sure. We do that. So the field transfer is activated, and we get back here. We have a new field already added in the sales shipment header, and the only thing we need to do is deploy it. That was the first trick. So the second trick is quite often there's already a field. So if I go in here, I can place existing fields on existing pages. Let me search for item. And we can see here that, the item table has so many fields. There are so many fields. So quite often the field that you need might already exist, it's just not surfaced in the UI for whatever reason that is. One of the reasons is that Microsoft tries really hard for the program not to be too confusing, meaning that if you always have 400 fields on the I don't know if there's 400, but you have hundreds of fields on the item card, that's just overwhelming and confusing for users. So you will run into sometimes that, hey, there is a field for a specific function, but it's not surfaced. In this case, there is a number 2. So each item has actually 2 numbers, so there's a number 2. And in this case, I have told, so this is, you see, this is the exact same as we had with the customer field. I have told that we get a list of all the pages in the system where the item number 2 could be placed. So these are all the places in the system where the item number is shown, the item record is shown. In this case, so please add this after the number. So we define the number field as the anchor, and then we say our relationship to the anchor is to add it right after the anchor field. That was tip number 2. So tip number 3 is that we can expose data as web service APIs. And this requires a short little explanation, because we also have the one called web services. This is let's call it the old one. We also have that in Nav, where you can take a random piece of UI and expose that as a web service. And that's awesome. The challenge is that these might not be very performant, especially if you take pages that has a lot of fact boxes and stuff that happens on them. They can be really, really slow. And the way they are exposed individually. So you have to, if you're in Power Apps, if Power BI, anything Power, you have to kind of take the link and create the connection by yourself. Now we have something called APIs, which is exposed kind of the same way, but in a different way. First of all, it's not a piece of UI that I expose, so it's specific, it's coded, it's programmed to be fast and not going to change if UI changes for some reason. But it's also, you can discover this. So if you go into Power Apps and connect to your Business Central, you get a list of tables, a list of APIs that has been exposed. So we can do that here. So in this case, I have exposed the customer table. And I think, this is demo data. So let's see what we actually have. So I want the number, the name, the address, the city, and the phone number. That's the only fields I want. I get that. So when I go into, after this is deployed, if I go into Power Apps and point to my Business Central, there's an entity called cost2. That one has only these fields in it. It's super fast and it's available directly. So that was tip number 3. So tip number 4 is actually, if you want to create something completely new, we call that a feature. So we can go in here and say, okay, let's create my demo set here is kind of a complete solution for handling something with pets, like grooming salon, something like that. So we have created a table of pets here. So we have defined the fields, what we want, and that is now in the system. So there is a list and there's a card and there's fields with lookup and all that stuff. So you can create completely new tables, different types of tables. This is just this is like a master data. If I go to customer here, we can see that we have a ownership table created, so a connection between the customer and the pets, and we can also create like document tables with a header and lines and posting functionality and all those things. So with that, you can build a fairly complicated solution just using the simple object designer. Okay, on to the last. Number 5 is actually right on this list, because when you open up Business Central, the first screen you get, the one we can see just behind us here, is a role center, and Business Central has a bunch of role centers, and they're great, but they might not fit your users. Your users might want a specific combination of menus at the top and content on the screen. So you can build your own role centers. In this case, I have built one here called Accounting for All, which is what they see. And this one has a couple of things in the menu and has some activities in the role center part. And that's actually the one I have behind here. So we added something in the menu and we added activity boxes. So with that, you can build your own role centers, so you can actually cater the system to your users without involving developers and anything. And when you're done creating this, you hit publish, say yes, and now the Simple Object Designer is writing the code. It's programming array right now, writing the codes for all these things we have created. And when it's done, it will do two things. One, because I answered yes, that it will actually start deploying this extension to the environment I'm in. If I'm working with this in a sandbox, or you can do this in production, but work with this in the sandbox and make sure everything works the way you like. And the other thing it did was that it downloaded an app file, and this app file you can then take and upload to your production environment, and all the things that you have developed with the Simple Object Designer is now in production. And we can see that this one is probably still deploying. This takes a couple of minutes to deploy, but I haven't really changed anything, so whatever was in version 70 is also in version 71. If you want to see more about the Simple Object Designer, there are links below to detailed videos on all these things. There's a link to the Hogart.com homepage where you can read more, and a link where you can buy it, but I suggest you start by trying it. So if you install it in your Business Central, you have the option for free in the trial version to create one field and create one API to try it out. And let me know in the comments below if there's something that you would love the Simple Object Designer to do that it's not doing currently. We always love to get great suggestions, and some of the features that you see in the program today are based on user requests. So thank you for watching, and have a lovely day.